All right, guys, so I am back here with my notorious brake problem that I've been having. If you watched my previous video on my brakes, and I'll pop that up right now so you can see the thumbnail for that and put that video link in the description, you will see what type of problem that I have been having with this car and why it is quite an odd one. However, in the meanwhile, I've been doing some research here, and what I've come to find out is that it's possible that I may have put too much pressure in my pressure bleeder. I first was talking to my, chatting with Certified Shade Tree when he was doing a live stream. He uses the Motive bleeder. I have a pressure bleeder. It's not the Motive brand, but I'll let you take a look at that in a minute. But anyway, there's a few things here I'm gonna try, and I also done some more research, and what I found out is that a lot of people, before you actually pressure bleed, you might wanna just pressurize the brake reservoir here, brake fluid reservoir here with the pressure, and let it sit for a while to make sure that there's no leaks. Now, I don't think that there's a leak on this car, but maybe, who knows, maybe that system isn't completely airtight. So therefore, maybe it could be introducing some bubbles of air into the thing. And maybe my master cylinder hasn't been blown out on the inside by too much pressure. It could be that if I just bleed it at the recommended 10 to 12 PSI, then I might not have any issues. Who knows? Because what I was doing, I was pressure bleeding at about 25, say to 30 PSI. And that was based on where I get that number from. Well, per GM, per all data, they said bleed the brakes at like 300 kilopascals, which is equivalent to some number. And I'll try to pop that up on the screen right now. But everywhere I have looked, these pressure bleeders, I've always seen people say between 10 and 15 PSI. Most people saying, around 10. So let me go over here and show you what I have here, first of all. So if you look here, I don't have a Motive bleeder, but I have this brand called K-Zeno. Now, I will say this, pressure bleeding, I have done the buddy bleeding system where you have somebody in the car pressing the brake and you're just, pumping the brake and you turn the bleeder screw. And I also have used vacuum bleeding as well. As you can see here, this unit here, this is a, I think it's called Four Uncles vacuum system. You might want a decent compressor, but that's a limitation with this. You need an air compressor. But this thing here pressurizes within the system itself, and you're able to easily do a brake bleed alone. So let me, I just wanted to show you this. And basically what I'm trying to say is that I have done multiple types of brake bleeding, and I agree with most of the consensus that I see on YouTube and other places on the internet that pressure bleeding is the route to go. It's the easiest, and frankly, it does a more thorough job than pretty much anything else. Any brake bleeding works if you know how to do it, but this here is kind of like the Cliff Notes version or the jitterbug version of brake bleeding, because it's just that easy. Now, another thing I'll say is that we don't know how airtight this is. And is there any air being introduced into the system? So basically 2 parts to this video, and it might be segmented, it might be spliced together, I don't know. The first step to do is, again, pressurize the system with this. Then check for leaks. Just let it sit for a while, see does the pressure, have any decay. Once that's finished, then I'm going to actually put brand new brake fluid into here and then bleed the brakes at the recommended 10 PSI, because maybe by having too much pressure, just some kind of weird way with physics. Again, I'm not a physicist, so I don't know this or that, but I'm just saying possibly some kind of way it could be shuttling air into the brake line somehow. I'm not entirely for sure about that. It's just my thought. So let me show you what's in this kit. So if you've never pressure bled a system before, you're going to learn how from this video, and I'll show you what's in this kit. First of all, you have the pressure bleeder here. That still has old brake fluid in it. Well, I'll pour that out off camera, get this all evacuated. You come with a line here that has a quick connect here, and you connect it to whichever piece that fits your car. This right here tightly fits my reservoir. And then you just kind of just snap that right, obviously just right on to here, and that's it. That's that part. They even give you a little wrench in here for this, because this is the spot where you want to open and close it here to relieve pressure from the system. I can't do that one-handed, but anyway, you can imagine holding one side one hand and taking this hand here and just slowly open it to release pressure out the system, because if you try to release pressure at the reservoir, you're probably going to do the thing that I did and spew brake fluid everywhere. So there's other little things that came in this kit. This right here has nothing to do with that kit, but I'll just show you this. This is the master cylinder bleeding kit. It has some plugs and things here. I'll link this in the description. Pretty cheap. It's made out of plastic, but anyway, it works. So, and that leads me to tell you what the follow-up to this video would entail. Now, based on the results I get today, my next step would be to take the master cylinder off the car, bench bleed it again to make sure I thoroughly bench bled it, then put it back on the car, then bleed the brakes again at 10 PSI. And then if the brakes still feel the same way, that's where I'm gonna be at a crossroads where should I proceed, say, with some other part, or should I just get another master cylinder put on the car? So at that point, I'm gonna do more research to figure out what I may or may not need to do. So anyway, let me get the rest of this fluid out of here and put it somewhere. I'm gonna put a jack out. I'm gonna connect everything on camera, so in case if somebody's not familiar with this procedure, how to do it. And well, we'll go from there, and I'll be back here in a minute. Oh, sorry about that, guys. I actually went through the whole thing of hooking this up and walking everybody through what I did, and also jacking up my car tire. And guess what? I did not even hit the record button. So I was sitting there, all of a sudden, my camera went off. I thought it overheated, but it just went auto off because I forgot to hit the record. So anyway, I'm just going to kind of tell you what I did here. I just took off this cap, put on the correct master cylinder cap here, hooked this quick connect to it, and pumped this up to about 12 PSI. And as you can see, it's about at 12 PSI. So it does not look like it's losing any pressure. So anyway, I'm gonna let that sit for this like about 5 minutes or so. So in the meanwhile, what I did was I was gonna come and jack up my tire, which I did. And I already jacked that up and put that on the wheel stand. I mean jack stand. And I was talking about a lot of stuff when I was doing this. So anyway, one of the things I said was that another shout out to Certified Shade Tree. He told me about this tripod here that has this huge battery in it, so I can keep using my GoPro. And one of the things that stopped me from using my GoPro as much was that the battery just, I don't know, I just kind of just got a little, I wouldn't say annoyed, but just having to change the battery out was a bit of a bummer, because it kind of just for some reason dies kind of fast depending on the resolution thing you're doing. So anyway, this thing solves that problem. I've been out this morning testing it out, walking around, walking up through my neighborhood, making short videos here and there, coming back here making videos, no issues. I appreciate that. So anyway, now what we're gonna do, let's go ahead. I'm gonna set the camera back up. And another thing I was saying was that you all don't get to see me turn the wrenches that much. So what I'm gonna do is I am going to take off my tire on camera. And then after that, we're gonna bleed the system. So anyway, I got my trusty Ryobi here, and I have my, got some wrenches here as well. And I got one flare wrench here, as you can see right here. Probably flare wrenches for bleeding the brakes are the best thing, but you can use regular box opening wrenches. And you know, if you're careful, you'll be just fine. And I mean, even if you had to replace the bleeder screw, they're only like $6 or $7. But anyway, use my Tecton set here. Lug for wheel lug nuts. And again, as I don't know, I think the camera cut when I say this, but everything I use this video, if you want to check it out and support the channel that way, I'll put all the links in the description. But anyway, this set has served me well. And so another thing is I actually changed my lug nuts. I had bought me a used set off of a salvage vehicle, and so I don't have that swollen nut problem on my car anymore, at least for now. So let's get to taking this off with the good old Ampeak, the Ryobi, not Ryobi, or whatever you want to call it. All right, here we go. Simple. There's 1, 2, 3. One of these lug nuts back here got a partial strip thread on it, and I think it was that one, where that one came off. Yep, there we go. All right, so that's that. Let's get this old tire off here. That just came off that simple. Let me roll this out of the way, and then we'll go back and check the pressure bleeder. And nope, it has not gone down. I mean, I don't know how well it's picking up, but it's about right at 12 where I put it, and I mean, that's all I can say is that it's about, yeah. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you how to relieve the pressure on this thing. So they put a wrench in the kit. This company here called, what's it called? K-Zeno. So you take this wrench here, you just put it around here and just put it on the slots around the top here. Let me get it in a good position before my hand so I can make sure I can grip everything here. All right, there we go. Then you just slowly, like, you don't just break it off, but just kind of give it a little slow and just let it hiss out just like that. All right, so slowly take that off. So now we can remove this wrench here. Go ahead, pull this on up in here. All right, so now I'm excited about this. Let's go ahead and get this to 12 PSI. All right, there we go, 12 PSI, approximately 12 PSI. So now, let's go back here, back of the car, and oh, you know what I didn't do yet? I didn't make my bottle yet. It's a little trick I do. One trick I do is I take a zip tie and I put it around this side here, and let me lift that up here. So that way, you don't, if you'll see it. So you can you won't accidentally pull it out. And I'll show you what I mean. Let me make sure that's tight. So now, being that to see the zip ties up here now, when you pull this cap down to it, let's go like this. Put the cap onto it. Now, this is in there, so if you pick this up by this cord, this will not slip out. All right, so now, let me get this set up first. First, let me just double check one last time to make sure that the pressure didn't go down. Now the pressure's still looking good. Just take my word for it. I didn't put the camera too close, but it's there. And let's get some light back here. All right, guys, so it is the next day and I am out test driving the vehicle, and what I can say is, wow, using the right pressure in the pressure bleeder made the difference. My brakes now feel normal. Now, what I observe, I'm gonna tell you two things I've learned here in this situation. First thing I learned is that, well, I know how to bleed, bench bleed a master cylinder. I did it 3 times on this car because I took the original one off, bled the new one, put it up here, and then took that one off, re-bled the original one I took off, put that one back up here, bled the system like 2 or 3 times, then took that one off again and re-bled the new one again and put that one back on the car. So that's what's on the car now, the new one. But in the reality, it seemed that I had made a difference. So anyway, that's my first thing I learned. Second thing I've learned is that it only takes a very small amount of air. I mean, a hydraulic braking system is very, very, very sensitive to air. Let me explain what I mean by that. So yesterday, I did catch a picture of it, or catch it on camera, because it's so faint, and I didn't really have a camera set up, but I thought I'd just explain what I observed, is that when I was letting the brake fluid run out, it was a nice solid line of brake fluid coming out of the caliper, going through the tube. But as I I didn't see it on the first tire, I didn't notice it until the second, my left rear tire. You got to get really up close to the tube and like almost shine a flashlight through, and you see something that almost like a little wisp of milk, so to speak. Not milk, just like a faint wisp. But what that is, because I sit there and really observed it, is that it's like micro air bubbles into this system, and it looks like it's. And again, I work in a lab, so I have observed this type of micro bubbles in products and things to test. So in other words, what I'm saying is that too much pressure with your power bleeder, somehow, I don't know how, I guess maybe it's shuttling some air because it's just way too much pressure. So it's kind of, again, this is a guess of mine. I'm not saying this is what it is, but because I was running at around 25 to 30 psi, because that was, again, about what 300 kilopascals is, if you convert that to psi, unless I made a calculation error. So too much pressure on the with the pressure bleeder seemingly will cause some very, very small amount of air in your system, but at least on my braking system, it seemed to have a huge effect. Because what I did was I bled the tire, I bled the caliper, moved on to the and let it bleed till I didn't see that little milky substance anymore. Or it wasn't really a substance, but it was more, again, micro bubbles. Moved on to the next tire, made the same observation, moved on to the next tire, which is the last and fourth tire, made the exact same observation again. Let it flow until you do not see any little thing, even I don't care how faint it is. If you see anything that look like a little wisp of smoke or a little wisp, I'm talking about the faintest, even the faintest wisp of it, let the car bleed until you don't see it anymore, because it's air. And that amount of air, although it's not just one big blob of air that you can visually see, it's just one big blob of air that's been kind of, say you take one blob of air to say a quarter of an inch long, but it's now separated into a million small bubbles. You can still imagine that the surface area of the bubbles can still be compressed just the same, or nearly the same. Let's just say, for all practical purposes, the same. So in other words, again, if you're bleeding your brakes and if you feel you have a spongy pad, really inspect your line when you're bleeding, like the actual tubing, and shine a flashlight through it. And if you see anything, again, that looks like a wisp of anything, you should continue bleeding the brakes until you do not see that again. And it's very hard to see, at least on my car, at least this was my experience. And again, maybe what caused it in my experience was the fact that, again, I used way too much pressure on the pressure bleeder. And maybe in other cases, you may see the same issue in your car from some other source of air that got into your system. So again, two things I learned, just to recap real quick. I can bench bleed a master cylinder, and if you see any sort of wisp or wisp-like artifact inside of the tubing when you're bleeding your brakes, continue bleeding until you do not see that anymore, because the hydraulic system is very sensitive to air. Very, very sensitive. So anyway, man, shout out again to Certified Shade Tree. I was talking to him in live when he was doing a live video, working on his friend's Buick, what is it? I forget what he had, Lucerne. And when I asked him about his brake bleed, I some kind of way asked him about it, and he told me he had a motive bleed and that he used about 10 psi. And I was like, wait a minute, I use way more than that. So then after I got the information from him, I went back to YouTube and I watched a lot of videos. And again, this is maybe something I didn't pay attention to before, but everybody was using around that psi, 10, 12. So I use about 12 psi. And what I did, and something I did not do the first time, was that, you know, if you're going to use a pressure bleeder, first of all, you should always check your system for leaks. So just put the pressure bleeder on your reservoir, pump it up to say 10 or 12 psi, leave it for you know, 5-10 minutes or whatever, and see if you see any decay in the pressure. And if you don't see any decay, well, you don't have a leak. So, and I was almost certain I didn't have a leak in this car, because I mean, I really inspected all around the car, under the car. I didn't see any sort of wetness from any sort of brake fluid, other than where I spilled some. But other than that, not like an actual bona fide leak. And so, and that's what makes brake systems so challenging, is that there's really no scan tool options that can help you. I mean, in some cases, I'm talking again, my experience based on, say, domestic car like this. The only thing the scan tool can tell you, which is what a ABS light can tell you, is if you know, if the brake fluid is low. And if your brake fluid is low, either two things: either your brake pads are really worn down, or you probably have a leak. Now, if it's gotten low and it's stabilized, it's probably just you need new brakes. That's just a guess. But there's nothing like, oh, I can diagnose this line, or I can diagnose the pressure inside of the system. You actually have to physically and mechanically and with deduction methodically walk through this. And again, I didn't necessarily figure this out on my own. I mean, that's the beauty of YouTube and the internet, is that you can take your mechanical ability and confidence, and when you run across some appropriate information, then you're able to apply that appropriate information to your situation, and you can sometimes come out with a good result, like I did in this case. So that said, guys, I'm going to go ahead and end this video here. You know, it's just, you know, sometimes, and oh, one last thing before I end, I'll say that one thing I've learned is that a lot of times it's just best to go back to the basics. And that's just from, you know, from my conversation I had with Certified Shade Tree. I said, all right, I'm gonna start right from the beginning and just do basic diagnosis and just do the default thing and see, does that make a difference before I proceed to, say, changing the ABS module, or even thinking about, you know, do I need to repair this master cylinder, rebuild it, or get another one or something like that? Have I ruined two master cylinders? In other words, I was like, hopefully I hadn't done that. So in other words, based on this situation right here, I have not done that, and everything now is working just fine. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. The never-ending saga has ended, but we will be on to another saga. So you guys take care, and I'll see you in the next one.